And okay. Hi, everyone, and welcome again to a conversation about art. This is episode 131. That's 131. I am your host, Gabriela Handal, and today I will be discussing the meaning of art and beauty with artist Adriano Farinella. If you want to support the show, please check the video description for links and things. And, well, Adriano, welcome. Please
Thank
introduce
you.
yourself.
Hi, thank you. It's great to be on your show, Gabriela. My name's Adriano Farinella. I'm a painter and educator. My studio is in Easton, Pennsylvania, and that's where I mostly live and work. This is my studio behind me, and I live upstairs. And yeah, I've been teaching for like 26 years, about 26 years this year, and all over the place, college, just regular workshops on my own. And now I have this facility where there's a classroom downstairs, and I teach weekly classes as well as week-long intensives and residencies and mentorship program and stuff like that here, and as well as online.
Okay. 26 years teaching, that's a long time.
Yeah, a long time.
All right, almost 3 decades. That's crazy. How did you get into that, and why did you choose that as, is
Teaching?
I figure it's teaching. I figure it's like a considerable part of your artist income, and how did you end up? Why did you choose that?
Teaching has always been. I've just always done it. I mean, I taught guitar lessons when I was a kid, like 12 years old, 14 years old. I was teaching guitar lessons to children as well as adults, and then when I went to college, I sort of was not. I wasn't like officially a teacher, but I'm good at being helpful, and it sort of translated in that way. After college, I just started teaching at like community art centers where I was teaching a figure drawing class, and then I was teaching painting, and then I was teaching this particular kind of landscape painting and sketching that I do, and plein air painting and figure drawing and figure painting and all of that. So it just is something that I've loved to do. I love it with all my heart. I love teaching, and I often say if I were a billionaire, I would still teach. It's not like it's got great money in it, but it does give back a lot. And I also found that when I started teaching, I learned things so much more deeply, more profoundly by having to explain them, just to even fundamental things, and also things that I never got in school. I had a fine education at a liberal arts college. It wasn't an academy or anything, but I know that when I know that teaching helped me unlearn some of that stuff, and then helped me relearn it as I was explaining it to people.
How do you think it is that teaching does that to the teacher? Because I haven't taught many times at all, but when it's been like, I don't know, like a handful of classes. When I have taught, that's exactly what happens because it's like the process of getting ready to teach the class, like studying what do I want to teach, how do I want to teach it, like the delivery, and do I understand what I'm saying here, and what does this mean, and what is kind of like the procedence of this expression, or when did we start using fixative on paper, for example, like that kind of, this type of stuff. It's just a goldmine of information that I don't know how do you think that works?
I have always I honestly think that for me personally, it works because my favorite thing is helping. I love helping. I love creativity. I love all, but if I can be helpful to someone, and if I can remove obstacles, or at least clear some of the path for somebody so they don't have to struggle with the same obstacles that I struggled with. If I can do that, then I feel like I'm part of the continuum, so to speak. Like I'm helping whoever it is move forward in their creativity. I also love the connection part of it. I love connecting to students. I've taught students that are teenagers, and I've had students that were over 80 years old, and everyone in
Mm-hmm.
between. So it's not like it's I teach to the individual. I like connecting to what that person does and what they're struggling with and how their process is maybe different from the student next to them's process. And so I really like the kind of humanity in it, and the honing in on that. I feel like is empathy led. I like to just help people move through the obstacles so they can get further into their creativity and further into their singular creative voice so they can just be more themselves. That's sort of my motivating factor with all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And creating a class and the syllabus or the subject matter to me feels like excavation. It feels like I'm putting together. I have to dig through things and I have to find what's important. I have to put them in order, and I have this limited amount of time to do it, like 16 weeks for a semester or 5 days for a workshop. And that helps me become better at honing in and focusing and finding what's important and conveying what's important, and then being there to help them implement it and integrate it into their practice.
Um, has being a teacher had any sort of influence in your own work or in your own artistic research?
Yeah. I mean, the older I get, the more I realize that it was integral to my development because, again, I don't want to trash talk my schooling. I went to a fine state school here, Kutztown University. In Pennsylvania. It's a fine state school. I had a great art education. I had some good professors. I had some, whatever professors. But I got out of there and I kind of knew some stuff, but I didn't really know a lot. And when I got out of there and into the world, it was right at the beginning of the internet. So we were starting to see what everybody else was doing that wasn't in our area, so
Mm-hmm.
to speak. It feels insane to talk about the beginning of the internet right now. I feel like not 100 years old, but it was right at the peak of that. So it was starting to get its footing as an information, gigantic information gathering place, and seeing what other people learned, seeing academic like academy based atelier programming. I realized like I was behind,
Mm-hmm.
especially if I was comparing myself to all those people. So what teaching did was help me fortify my own foundation by relearning and unlearning. Unlearning is gigantic, a part of my development and something I teach a lot. Meaning, I got input in those years of things that were, kind of the law, so to speak. Vague things that were more academic, that were less expressive, or the opposite, more expressive, less academic. So it was this weird thing I just to parse through and put together what worked for me, not what worked in the voice of this professor or in the voice of that professor. That unlearning and then sort of deconstructing the education and reconstructing it to serve what I wanted to say and how it would benefit my own voice, rather than me playing scales my entire life. I wanted to be able to sort of write music, so to speak. I wanted to be able to make it into something that was more art than just exercise, and building that foundation, making myself feel a bit more confident in what I was building on, foundationally, skill wise, and in the other half, sort of intuitive wise. It was just teaching helps me level those two out.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's still a practice. I think it's lifelong, thank goodness.
Um, so your issue, I guess, with your, I don't know, institutional education, I guess. Um, you're obviously not the only one, right? That
Yeah, I've heard.
has like kind of this. Oh, I wasn't taught what I wanted to learn. I wasn't taught enough, or whatever. It's a common comment
Hmm.
on the subject. So, do you think that might have been the cause of first of all, the school, what do you call it, like the 2 years or whatever, like the period of study is limited,
Hmm.
for example, and the people there can only teach you so much in that
Hmm.
time, for example. That's one. And the other one is that sometimes the teachers themselves perhaps aren't as adept as they could be at communicating certain information. Because, for example, if a teacher tells you that no, you have to play scales forever, instead of telling you that no, the scales are not um, a rule or a limitation necessarily, they are kind of like a segue
Hmm.
to your freedom.
Of course.
So like, I mean, was there either one? What do you think about both of these things as factors that could um, have you end up thinking that you just came out lacking from that institutional education?
I mean, I think it's well said that the limit plays a big role in this. It was 4 years, and of those 4 years, it was maybe 2.5 that I was in full-time study of the art. Everything else was like supplemental to that liberal arts education, which
Mm-hmm.
I'm thankful for as well. I think if I had my ultimate goal after that was to go to an atelier program. I wanted to go to Florence Academy of Art more than anything in the world. That's what I wanted. Like the day after I graduated, I just knew I was going to go. I wanted to go there. And again, this was early in the days of Florence Academy. There was like 3 ateliers, and none of them were really in the United States at that point.
Right.
So I applied, and I didn't get. I got what I had to get from liberal arts college, and from that art education, the BFA, and I wanted to then go specialize a little bit more in academics. So I wasn't like, holding a grudge against what
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get. I was just becoming aware of what I didn't get and what I wanted more of. And my energy was into gaining the information by one way or the cumulative practice, was one of them. And then the other part was that I just wanted to go get the education. I wanted to go get the credential from the place that I thought was like my, destiny, so to speak. I didn't get in, FYI, because I guess I put together a portfolio. I thought I was gonna get in. I visited and had I wrote a letter. We were on a class trip, and I wrote a letter to Richard Mowry. Do you know Richard Mowry?
No.
An amazing painter, sort of the American Vermeer, he was called. He was elderly then, and he passed away.
Oh, okay.
But he is tremendous. As he was an expat, left America and lived in Florence. Would paint inside of his Florence beautiful apartment, and just a tremendous painter. And he was a hero of mine. Then I wrote him a letter when we were on a trip. He actually like contacted me at my hotel and said, come over for lunch or whatever. And then
Mm-hmm.
it was an amazing situation. And I went over there, and I was sitting in the room that I had seen a painting of, using the salt and pepper shaker that I had seen in a painting, drinking from the glass I had seen in a painting. It was a surreal, wonderful experience in my life. And I was so thankful for it. I voiced to him how much I wanted to go to the academy. He took me down there. We walked through and all of that. And I was just in love, and I wanted to be there doing that. I came home, I applied, and I didn't get in. And mostly it was because at that point they were letting in like 10 people a year,
Mm-hmm.
because it was, again, there was just no academies. I think during that time, all those people that went during that time then graduated and then moved back to the States and then opened a lot of academies,
Mm-hmm.
and it sort of went on and on. So at that point, that plan went out the window, and what I ended up doing instead was moving inward, trying to get good at practicing figure drawing and figure painting and getting into landscape and all of that. So teaching was the thing that organized all that into this a curriculum for me to explain this to people, but also to like re-solidify the things that were the most important to me, for myself. And
Mm-hmm.
that's really the it's sort of the bridge between those two things.
Okay. Um, does or did, I guess, Florence Academy have some kind of a limitation about whether people can apply again or not? Because I guess I'm
Yeah,
curious
no,
about
they didn't. No, it was just
didn't.
it was a window that opened and closed. It was, and the reason why was because, and I thought about reapplying and everything. I was devastated. I mean, it
Sure.
was my absolute dream and plan that I had planned for years. And I like tanked. But I also then at that point was like, well, now I'm not going to school. I have to do something to earn a living. I was working at an art store for nothing. I was working at barely any money. I was working at a used bookstore, living in the college town, just biding my time until I moved to Florence. When that didn't happen, it just really tanked. I kind of didn't know what I was doing. I was sort of shaken up by it. And I ended up having to move. And then I ended up having to make a living because, I couldn't live in a college town for a $300 a month rent anymore. I had to get a job. And then that opened up a whole other thing regarding work, life, art, making balance. And so, but I'm in a way, like, I don't look back at it and think, oh, I should have done it. I think it worked out okay.
Sure.
Yeah, I would have loved to be immersed in that world. Florence is my favorite place on earth. And I would have loved to have been that, but that it didn't happen opened up these other discussions of what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it. And it opened me up to more growth in a way that I needed, as well as the academic practice. I think I needed more anyway. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So the window that you're talking about is that you just didn't have time or money anymore to kind of, invest, I guess, in applying again to the school. It's not because the school had some kind of limitation in.
No.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, because.
No.
Okay. No, yeah, it's just that at the New York Academy, which is where I went, there's a teacher. There's a couple of teachers who took the MFA and then graduated and everything, but there's one of them who is a particularly cool, amazing kind of Renaissance sort of guy. And he had to apply 3 times before he was accepted into the school. And I really wish he had kind of a really good website and stuff, because then I can just like email it to you and then you can see the kind of guy that I'm talking about. But he's for whatever reason, he's not really that good about displaying his work, even though his work is really, I don't know. I don't remember his argument, but whatever. Okay. All right. So I would go into the art and beauty discussion. Okay. So, would it be okay? Oh, wait, let me write down the time real quick. I mean, not it's 3:50. That's not what I mean. Would it be okay with you if I read the notes that you sent me on the Instagram, and then we can discuss? Okay, so I'm gonna read the art related ones first, and then I'll read the beauty related ones. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, just give me a second, please. Okay. I guess the Zappa quote would be about art.
Overall, yeah, like sort of a little of both. Definitely, yeah.
Okay. So I was just wondering whether I should read that one or not. Okay, so I'm gonna start with that one. So the Frank Zappa quote, and again, these are related to art. The Frank Zappa quote is: "Information is not knowledge. Knowledge is not wisdom. Wisdom is not truth. Truth is not beauty. Beauty is not love. Love is not music. Music is the best." Okay. Then we have a quote from Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, the book by Robert Pirsig. The quote is: "You want to know how to paint a perfect painting? It's easy. Make yourself perfect and then just paint naturally." Okay, so then just one moment, because I want to read the elaboration, I guess, a little bit, and then I'll ask you more stuff still, okay? All right, so this is you, Adriano. So it says, quote, "Frank Zappa's famously irreverent quote walks us through a hierarchy of understanding from information to music, only to conclude with a wink and a punch that music is the best. It's a tongue-in-cheek reversal of traditional philosophical hierarchies, suggesting that the culmination of all human striving is not abstract truth, but embodied felt experience. Music, for Zappa, becomes the ultimate form of meaning, not because it explains, but because it moves. Then, continuing, Robert Pirsig's quote pushes the conversation inward, linking artistic creation with the moral and spiritual development of the self. In his view, art is not about technique alone, it's about integrity. The idea that one must become perfect in order to paint perfectly is less about unattainable flawlessness and more about wholeness. When the self is in alignment, artistic expression becomes natural, even inevitable. Art is whatever gives form to what we cannot put into words. It can be a process, a practice, or a moment of connection, often carrying layers of meaning that shift depending on who's engaging with it. Art asks us to slow down, to notice, and sometimes to confront what is hidden or overlooked. At its best, it moves us, not just emotionally, but intellectually and spiritually, reminding us that there is more to life than what is immediately visible. Art in all its forms serves as a bridge as well, an invitation to look beyond appearances into the deeper rhythms of existence where meaning, emotion, and truth converge. Okay. End quote. Yes.
And then the John O'Donohue quote that bridges those two together is sort of the literally, it just sort of feels like the bridge between art and beauty. And yeah, so hopefully that was clear in what I was writing there.
Yes. Okay. All right, just give me a minute.
Sure.
First of all, generally I have a smidge of an issue when somebody answers a question or answers a question with a quote or provides a quote as a definition, but I like that you clearly have put thought into these. I mean that you've thought about them, like and can like paraphrase,
Yeah. I don't usually answer questions with a quote, but because of what you were asking in this, I wanted to make sure that you knew that I understood the question you were asking me regarding where beauty and art are in my relationship to my own career and everything else.
Yes, of course. A lot. I have the impression that throughout the quotes, kind of themselves, and your elaboration, there is maybe the desire to say something that has been said for a really long time in just like a different way. In a way almost like to deny the thing that was previously said just because you're saying it in a new way. I'm not sure if I'm explaining that. I guess it's because I'm going with the pretty hard with the Zappa quote, in the sense I'm very unfamiliar with him. Okay.
The context of that quote is from this album that was called Joe's Garage, it was just kind of dystopian. It'd be too much of a rabbit hole for us to go down at this moment, but it's more. It's a very it's a conceptual album about creativity. It's irreverent. It's lewd, and it's hilarious, and it also has like a sort of a serious, one of the most beautiful things I've ever heard in my life, piece of music in there. And then this quote that I'm submitting here is the beginning of that beautiful piece of music. It's sort of what sets it off. And it's sort of, to me, it's the pinnacle of that album, even though that's probably arguable. But to me, it's the pinnacle. It's the closing of that album, and it's a sort of a testament to devotion to beauty. One of the things about Frank Zappa is that he's more aligned with humor and like being provocative than he is with beauty. He's not doing like really sentimental music whatsoever. It's very irreverent, and it's very humorous, and it's very much about technique and skill, and how that can be mixed with humor and then made into this other thing that is rock music that is different than pop music. So there's that. Mm-hmm. This little piece of music called Watermelon and Easter Hay is, to me, when I first heard that album, I listened to it like crazy when I was 19 years old. The first time I heard it, I remember what I was doing. I was doing a drawing assignment on a drafting table in my bedroom, which was the basement of our house. And I was listening to that whole album, and it was fine, and it was funny or whatever. And then I heard that quote, and then I heard the beginning of Watermelon and Easter Hay. And I remember thinking, please don't make this funny. Like, please leave this. Like, I didn't want it to get funny like the rest of it. I didn't want like weird sex jokes or weird punchlines, or I just wanted to like, let's just do this. And I remember just stopping and being like, oh my God, I hope this happens. I hope it stays. And he does. He keeps it just perfectly beautiful, and it's got this airiness and everything about it. Like, I felt in my bones. I'm also a musician, by the way. So right. I was a guitar player and so like it was hitting me on a level that was both practical, and I was, he was a hero of mine as a guitar player. So anyway, but the moment that was stirring to me because of that quote was that it introduced this almost isolated moment of just pure beauty. Like, it is the most sentimental of all of his music. And to say that is not to take it lightly, because there's nothing like that. And the fact that I was like, please just keep this beautiful, and let it just be itself without injecting anything to ruin that beauty, or to just move it aside for a punchline, was life-changing to me. And then that quote, just I would listen to over and over again, and it moved me because, like I said, it is sort of a wink and a punch, like music is the best, is because music is intangible. Like, even if we write it down, it's just in the ether, and it's this thing that stirs us. And other composers have talked about that, I think, as well, that there's an ethereal quality to it. You can't hold music. You can hold notation, and you can hold an instrument, but music is just everywhere in the air, and it becomes the air in the room. And that is transcendent. And that's what I was always after. That's why that quote made me, it sort of grounded me and propelled me into space at the same time. It was just this wonderful realization at like that age. It really was like a stake in the ground. I was like, this is it. I get what I want, to at least make something like that. But I also like the skill building that was involved in getting the beauty. So it was always right brain, left brain. And that quote and that piece of music was what lifted that off. The piercing quote, also kind of irreverent, but like, do you want to know how to make a perfect painting? Make yourself perfect and then just paint naturally, which is more about, not about the aesthetic. It's not about external anything. It's about making you as the artist, you as accountable to your real true self, be the barometer to what you're making, and to learn that over and over and over again, as we have to, because that's what we do as creatives. But to learn that over and over and over, and have it be essential in what you do when you communicate between you and a blank canvas, between you and a body of work, and between you and whatever thesis you're after as a creative. And it could be, it doesn't have to be painting, it doesn't have to be music, it can be in anything. I think there's an integrity to yourself that is what that other quote is, what the Pirsig quote is talking about.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That makes sense?
What?
Does that make sense?
Sure, yeah. I guess particularly with the Pirsig quote now, it seems like I have the impression that humans, like, we tend to get fixated just on something that is like just off the mark, like right really beside the target, kind of, in a way. And for example, in the case of the Pirsig quote, he's talking in general about perfection. It's like, oh, the individual who makes the painting being perfect, or the painting itself, like the end result being perfect. And this is something that I have learned recently with the podcast, talking about these things and stuff. It isn't so much that the painting strictly has to be perfect, or that the person has to be perfect, and it's obviously applicable to many other things, but it's rather the journey itself, by which you polish your skill and your thoughts on whatever it is that you're talking about with the work,
Right.
that causes this overall improvement. It's kind of like the striving for perfection, not reaching the perfection exactly. So it's like,
I mean,
you see,
yeah,
I mean, does that seem
I
about
do.
right?
And the thing is that perfectionism and even the like saying the word perfect, and even in this context where it's, in quotes or whatever, but the idea of perfect and perfectionism, to me, perfectionism is and always was a trap and a tyrant. It was something that ate up a decade of my creative life. It had to do with comparison. It had to do with where I was skill wise compared to everybody else, and all of that, and that constant killer of momentum comparison, and that kind of perfectionism, to me, is not what we're talking about here. We're talking more in this case. What we're talking about more is not like what I was saying, the unattainable flawlessness. It's more about what is your integrity, like directing you towards what feels right, what doesn't. It's always, you have to hone in on it yearly, if not weekly or daily. It is something as creatives that we have to keep navigating through, especially now with all of the stimulus that we get on social media and on everywhere in the world, being bombarded with every other creative doing lots and lots of creative things. It's very easy to turn that into something that's going to crush your creativity rather than build it. In this case, the perfection part of it means to align yourself with yourself, not with other exterior voices, to just find what is true to you and then pursue that. If it means drawing hyper realistically, if it means being an abstract art, it doesn't matter. What matters is for you to find the thing that is the most integral to who you are, and to follow that without compromising it.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's talk then about this bridge.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so for beauty, we have a quote by John O'Donohue. "The human soul is hungry for beauty. We seek it everywhere. When we experience the beautiful, there is a sense of homecoming." And then this is you. Quote, John O'Donohue offers a more reverent tone, suggesting that beauty is not an indulgence, but a deep human need. His view aligns with ancient philosophical and spiritual traditions in which beauty functions as a path to wholeness. When we encounter the beautiful, O'Donohue says, It evokes a sense of homecoming, not in a literal sense, but in the way it aligns with something essential and eternal within us. Um, I wonder why there is this about it having to be one or the other, meaning that it's not an indulgence but a need. Um, like I wonder why can't it be a little bit of both?
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is a little bit of both. I'm sure there's levels of beauty, like food. There's levels of food that is just an indulgence, a cupcake. I love it. It's delicious. It's not sustenance in the way a steak and a salad is. So there's levels of it, and it's fine. I think what he's talking about there and what makes it relevant to me, and what when I heard that and when I integrated that, what it meant was that for me it was essential. Beauty as a practice, as something that I need to pursue and follow and nurture and understand, as something that is that I'm trying to achieve with work. Um, it's essential. It's not on the level of indulgence. It's on the level that when I hit it, when I get there, I feel like I am again, like I'm home. Like I feel the same way I would if I were out in the world and I came home. I feel that same sense. And when you can practice that kind of conjuring of beauty, and then getting your skill to the level where you can produce it and reproduce it again, and you can develop a practice of it, that feels like a really big anchor home, and that's where then you can make work from. That's how that quote affected me. It made beauty that always seems superficial, sometimes hokey, sometimes silly, sometimes commercial. It took all those away and just really stripped it to what I always felt of it, which was that it was this bridge that took me from this activity to transcending the activity. It took me from just painting to trying to achieve something that was a broader, bigger continuum of true beauty, of the way that it can transcend the actual thing and lift us to something else. That's always what I'm after. Yeah, I don't hit it every time. Not every time is a home run. Sometimes I get close, and sometimes parts of it get close. But knowing and feeling that it's essential, and it makes me feel like that's my purpose. That's a lot of my purpose anyway in working the way I do, and in looking for what I'm looking for in the work in the end.
How is beauty not like a form of perfection, or at least like an ideal towards which to strive?
I think that is we can that's a whole other that question is an entire other podcast. It's a wonderful question, and there's so many philosophical ways into that, and I love that question. I think in this context, um, for me, as I can answer it for me, it goes back to like sort of the framework of the other quotes, meaning the I'm not really judging it necessarily by this ideal, because that could be a trap, because I did that for a long time, and I never
Um,
got there, and so what it did was crush me, rather than pursuing the way that I felt that I could be a part of creating beauty, and then being loyal to that rather than the way someone else did it.
what would you elaborate on what you mean by trap exactly? Like
Well,
why
I mean, it could.
and why does that make and why did that make you just want to like turn away from it? I guess.
I mean, because I guess so. Contextually, what I mean when I talk about that was the biggest struggle I had during that time was to again, it was after that, not getting into the academy and sort of turning my attention to trying to educate myself and make a living at the same time. So my time was sort of split between survival mode and developing the artistic voice and skills that I wanted to develop. The My best friends during that time were Hudson River School painters, were the Proudhon book and the Corot in Italy book that I got from the Met. All like these amazing heroes of painting that were heroes. They were just absolute heroes of mine that I wanted to emulate, and they were in that case my ideal beauty. I The trap part of it was that they were not who I was, and I wasn't going to be who they were as painters. No matter if I got as good at skill building as all of them, if I was gonna just sit and draw Bouguereau paintings and drawings forever, maybe I would get that good, but I wasn't gonna make the art that I needed to make by doing that. And so the trap was that I fell into that for a long time and didn't paint the way I paint. And I learned that in that decade time the hard way, I think. By myself. I didn't have a big community. None of this is like my personal story. Like, I'm not talking about for everybody, whoever's listening to this. I'm talking about it as an example. This is what I did in the trap I fell into with trying to pursue something in a way that was more towards building this skill that I thought was the pinnacle of skill with these art heroes, rather than developing the voice that can merge with my skill and grow with it. I needed to have that open runway of that, rather than trying to constantly be as good as Proudhon in figure drawing, constantly be as good as Bouguereau or Corot. Like, I just could not keep doing that. I just had to do my own version of that journey, that search. I just needed to be without that. And it's just, again, it's my personal, my sort of growth as an artist during that time. But it made a lot of sense, because what it did was make me tune into what I really love doing, and sometimes how those are different. I could really love a lot of things, but I don't do them. I don't have to do them in order to, I can still love them by themselves. But what I'm doing as a creative, I need to love what I'm doing. I need to love the time and the pursuit of it. And it can't be like a fight all the time, which is what it used to be.
Okay. But I mean, it's just that what you're describing, I mean, what I understand so far from what you're describing is it makes me think of like so either making master copies, or kind of working with different subject matter but in the style of that person that you're trying to imitate or whatever. And it sounds to me like a form of study, and I think of that as a form of study because, I mean, I did it in undergrad, I did it in grad
Sure.
school, and
No,
I
there's
do it
nothing wrong with
still to this day. Not as often, but I still do it, and it's still a form of learning. And I think maybe I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. The part that I also perceived that maybe was really grueling for you was kind of individuating yourself almost, and finding what people typically call, your style or your artistic voice, and then being like an individual artist with like your own handwriting. You know what I'm saying? I mean, everybody learns their
Yeah,
calligraphy in school, but then everybody
sure.
ends up having their own handwriting that other people can recognize. I mean, does that seem about right?
Yeah, I mean, I think, in generally speaking, yeah. Again, it was just this way that I had to figure out my way, and this answer I had to provide that could only be done with doing the work. I couldn't do it theoretically. I had to, sort of build the skill and build the voice, build the analytical and build the intuitive parts of how I make work and what I did in the studio and what became a repeatable studio practice for me. That's what I had to work on. That was the biggest education that I had. Maybe I would have gotten there quicker if I went to the academy, if I went to graduate school. Maybe I would have gotten much further, much earlier. I have no idea. What I know is that when I look back during that time and when I take this really honest look at how I approached everything, where I felt I could have done better was by listening a little bit harder to who I was, different from what I loved in art that I didn't do. So I don't know that I would have been great if I went to the academy. I don't know that I would have really thrived. I think I would have gotten skill, but I think there's just other part of me that needed to just like raise the level of intuitive painting to the point where I can actually feel like both of those, analytical and intuitive painting, were both happening at the same time. That's where I feel the most power, the most alive, is when both of them are.
Okay. Sorry. So then if you have like a slider of what you're referring to as intuitive and what was the other one? Skill, analytical. So the issue was that it was all the way on analytical and you weren't, like, it wasn't in the middle. Yeah. Is that because
to the point of to suppressing to sort of suppressing the intuitive? Like you need to be academically trained to be valid, to be like, that was the pinnacle. That was the program running in me. It wouldn't have lasted. The other part needed to push through, and I'm glad that it did.
Okay, but then what do you think about this? What do you think about possibly seeing it this way, I guess? I'm not, and not that you have to see it this way, I'm just kind of like this point of view, I guess. That you needed to have it up at analytical for a little while, meaning that you had to polish the skill to then be able to nurture the intuitive. Because it really sounds like, you have the one arguable extreme of the really formulaic, maybe atelier study, versus when you go to a contemporary art school where they just like put some music in the radio in the class or whatever, and then they're like, paint what you feel, and it's like completely unfettered, ridiculous stuff. So then it's like, right. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree. I think my pursuit, my entire creative life, in music, in painting, in drawing, and everything, has always been a strong foundation of the language, in order to then, in the first day of every class I teach in the university or wherever, especially drawing one or whatever, I always say, this is we're not here. This isn't like express yourself class. This is where we learn the language the same way as if we were walking into a classroom learning a language. We wouldn't go into French 1 and learn poetry. You can't understand the nuance. You can't understand the metaphor in it. You need to learn words and then sentences and then little paragraphs. And then you start inching into the poetry and you start creating the nuance that is more art. To me, it's the same in what we do as creatives in visual arts. I firmly believe in a visual foundation that makes people understand what all the fundamentals are of drawing and painting. Otherwise, just like, if there was I think a lot of times we get away with, in visual arts, they get away with what you said of just expressing yourself and moving things forward. But if you were in music class and you came in and just banged on the piano, it would be very obvious to the public or to whoever is listening, like, they don't know what they're doing. Let's give them an idea of what scales are and what a key is and how to make chords and then how to build a melody and all of the stuff that goes with that. To me, that's what I look at with how I build art. And that's what I ultimately, what was the thing I was sorting out for myself back then. And that I still feel like I need to revisit both of those sides of my brain. There's times where all I want to do is immerse myself in academic figure drawing, like back here. I don't know if you can see it, but I love doing academic figure drawing, academic figure painting. That lights up a part of my brain that is. I cannot reproduce any other way. It's a true love of everything that goes into that kind of work. And then there's times where I want to do, just walk up to a canvas and paint it. And not know what I'm doing, to improvise it, to make a mark and follow the mark. And then if it works, keep it. If it doesn't, change it. I love that interaction. That makes me feel alive in a different way. So it's both of those things that I am always trying to put together and make into, that's my highest integrity to myself. Those are the things that are important to me. And those are the things that I like to have parallel to each other. Sometimes I need a little more analytical. Sometimes I need a little more intuitive. But what I've done for myself in this whole time was tune into which one was which and how I needed to approach nurturing both of them. In no way am I saying that there's anything wrong with doing master copies or playing scales or anything. I love all of that stuff. I just think that there's more than that. And I think that there are a lot of students who I've met and who have taken my workshops and who I've talked to who have been in the academic world for so long that then they see my online thing and then they hear about me talking about, invented sketches and stuff. And they're like, oh my God, I want to paint more like that. Like, why? Like I miss that kind of play, play like music play, not play like child play. Right. I miss that kind of just like getting there and being excited about what you don't know is in front of you and how can you make a mark and how strange it is what we do. We have a long stick with hair at the end of it and we're pushing mud around on a piece of canvas. Like, it's absurd what we're doing, but we can really find a lot of meaning in it, and we can find a lot of play in it. We can find a lot of life in it, and we can find a lot of thought and mindfulness and analytical parts in it too. All of that can be encompassed. And to me, that's everything. That's what I'm always striving for, is for all of that to be together. And that's when I feel the most like I'm on purpose and I'm doing what I need to be doing, and feel balanced. Those are my goals.
Okay. Well, I think those are great. And I also think that particularly this last part is perfect for starting to close it out, Adriano, because we've broken the 50-minute mark. We're actually at 52 minutes, so I'm going to start to close it out.
Sure.
So why don't you tell our listeners and viewers anything that you want to plug? Where can people find your work, your website? Do you have any classes coming up, a show coming up, this type of stuff?
Great. So I teach here in Easton. I'm going to have a summer workshop here of my flagship class is called Sky and Clouds and Land and Air. And it's this, it's a landscape painting class, but it's based on making small sketches and then turning those sketches into bigger studio paintings. The sketches part is intuitive. The making a studio painting is kind of analytical at first to translate it, and then it's both of them put together. That I teach all year round. What I'm working on is a whole online course that is just online, and that's my project for this summer, is to make that. But I'm teaching a live one here in July, today's Friday, in less than a week, next Thursday, this building has a gallery downstairs and where I teach, and this is my studio, and it's my love of my life as buildings go, and as projects go, because it's this thing called studio work that is the teaching part of my studio practice. And the grand opening is on Thursday, and the ribbon cutting is on Thursday, and there's going to be
of the gallery.
Of the gallery. It's sort of. I did a soft opening in November, and that was lovely. But this is sort of they do this lovely thing here where they have a big ribbon and they cut it, and the mayor comes, and
Oh,
it's just
nice.
this official beginning of this, and it's been a long road. I've been here for a while, but this to me is this is this place I wanted to get to, and a lot of things had to happen to get here and to stay here. And now this is sort of the beginning of this other phase of it where I can really do what I feel like is my purpose. So that's what I've been working towards. It's gonna be 15 new small works in that, plus a couple. This painting should be done by then, and another big one. And summer programming and all of that. So my website is just adrianofarinella.com. Studio work is within that. You can find online instruction, in-person instruction there. I don't know. That's pretty much it. I think everything, and Instagram is where I usually post things, which is just my name, Adriano Farinella.
Okay. All right. Well, the pertinent links to Adriano's website and Instagram are going to be in the video description, and so will other links to support the podcast. Hopefully, you all want to support both. So please check out the video description. Thanks again, everyone, and have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.